There are moments in life when change feels impossible, when habits seem stubborn, motivation feels unpredictable, and the gap between intention and action stretches wider than we'd like to admit. In today's episode, we explore a book that redefines how transformation really happens. Elastic Habits by Stephen Guise offers a refreshing, flexible, and deeply human approach to building habits that finally stick. Instead of forcing ourselves into rigid routines, Guise invites us to create habits that adapt to our lives, habits that stretch, shrink, and adjust based on our energy, mood, and circumstances. Imagine a system where success is not about perfection, but about movement, where every small action counts, and where consistency is built not through pressure, but through freedom. That is the promise of Elastic Habits. Take a deep breath, ease into the moment. Let the story unfold. Stephen Guise begins Elastic Habits with an observation many of us know, but rarely admit. Traditional habits break easily because life does not stay still. A busy day, a bad mood, unexpected stress, these moments destroy rigid routines. But Guise proposes a different way of thinking. Instead of relying on willpower or discipline alone, he suggests designing habits that bend without breaking, habits that expand when we're motivated and contract when we're not. Habits that succeed not because life cooperates, but because they adapt to whatever life becomes. He introduces the idea through relatable stories of people who tried to establish strict habits, exercising for an hour a day, studying for 2 hours, writing a chapter, reading 50 pages, only to find themselves failing the moment their schedules shifted. Guise illustrates how the brain interprets failure. Once you break a habit, your confidence drops and the habit collapses like a bridge with a single missing beam. But when your habits are elastic, meaning you can do a small, medium, or large version, you remain successful even on your worst days. Guise describes how an elastic habit works by imagining a simple routine like reading. Instead of committing to read 30 minutes every day, he offers 3 versions, maybe reading 1 page, the mini, reading 10 pages, the plus, or reading a chapter, the elite. On days when energy is low or motivation disappears, you can do the mini. On better days, you naturally expand into the plus or the elite. Success becomes a spectrum, not a single fragile point. He shares examples of people who maintained habits for months simply because they allowed themselves small wins on days that would have destroyed traditional routines. This idea becomes clearer as Guise explains the psychology behind behavior. The brain loves reward and momentum. It dislikes pressure and perfectionism. Elastic habits work because they create a constant sense of achievement. A single push-up, a 5-minute walk, a 1-sentence journal entry. These tiny victories release dopamine, encouraging the brain to repeat the behavior. Over time, small wins accumulate, becoming powerful identities. Instead of thinking, "I failed my habit today," the person thinks, "I did the small version. I stayed consistent." Then, Guise dives deeper into the emotional side of habit building. He describes how people often create habits based on ideal versions of themselves, the future self who is always energetic, always focused, always motivated. But this future self rarely matches the person we are on the average Tuesday afternoon. Guise paints vivid examples of people who built habits around their best days, only to abandon them completely on their worst. Elastic habits, he argues, respect the real human experience. Some days are strong, some days are weak, but both count. He encourages readers to treat discipline like stretching. You stretch more on good days, less on bad days, but the movement continues. Guise expands on this idea using the metaphor of habit flexibility zones. Instead of treating your habit like a strict doorway you must pass through, he invites you to imagine it as a space with multiple entrances, some large, some small. He shares stories of people who never considered themselves consistent until they discovered how freeing it was to allow themselves flexible entry points. One reader, for instance, who always failed at daily running, created an elastic habit: run 1 minute, run 10 minutes, or run 30 minutes. On tough days, he ran for 1 minute, which often led him to run more anyway. The identity of being a runner began to grow not through long runs, but through daily showing up.
Another key idea in the book is the power of variety. Guise explains that humans crave novelty, yet most habits fail because they are repetitive and boring. Elastic habits offer variety by design. You choose the level of difficulty each day. This satisfies the brain's need for both structure and change. Guise offers the example of someone trying to write daily. The elastic habit might be: write 1 sentence, write 1 paragraph, or write 1 page. The writer stays consistent because each day offers options that match their energy. As the narrative continues, Guise addresses common habit pitfalls. He explains how perfectionism destroys progress by convincing people that anything less than an ideal performance is worthless. Elastic habits dismantle perfectionism entirely. There is no perfect performance, only movement. He tells stories of people who stopped quitting habits because the system made it impossible to fail. Even checking off the smallest version created a psychological victory that kept them moving forward. He also discusses the science of motivation, revealing that motivation is not something we wait for, it is something generated through action. Small actions create momentum, momentum creates motivation, and motivation supports larger actions. Guise illustrates this through countless examples. People who intended to do only the mini version, but found themselves expanding into the plus or elite version naturally once they got started. Starting small, he reminds us, is not weakness, it is strategy. Midway through the narrative, Guise introduces the concept of habit stacking within elasticity, where multiple elastic habits work together. For example, someone might create elastic habits for fitness, reading, and learning a new skill. They might do the mini versions of all 3 on tough days, or expand one of them depending on time and focus. This creates a lifestyle of constant, adaptable improvement. Guise shares stories of individuals who transformed entire areas of their lives simply by using this flexible system across multiple domains. As the story unfolds, Guise explains how elastic habits build what he calls identity momentum. Rather than focusing on outcomes, losing weight, learning a language, saving money, elastic habits create identity. I'm someone who shows up. This identity becomes stronger with each completed mini version until the person naturally grows into the larger versions without forcing themselves. He shares examples of readers who became daily exercisers, fluent language learners, and prolific writers even though they started with embarrassingly small actions. Toward the end of the book, Guise reveals an important truth. Transformation never comes from huge efforts done occasionally. It comes from small efforts repeated consistently. Elastic habits succeed because they eliminate the main reasons habits fail: rigidity, guilt, overwhelm, and the all-or-nothing mentality. By giving yourself permission to succeed just a little, you create space for growth a lot. In the final chapters, Guise reflects on how the elastic approach mirrors real life. Life stretches us some days, and shrinks us others. And habits built on elasticity grow with us instead of breaking under pressure. He describes people who survived chaotic periods, illness, job changes, family responsibilities, and maintained their habits because the system bent instead of snapping. Their lives improved not because they had perfect discipline, but because they learned how to adapt intelligently. Guise ends the narrative with a gentle truth. Greatness is built from flexibility, not force. Habits do not need to be impressive. They need to be repeatable. And when we learn to design habits that fit our real lives, our growth becomes unstoppable. And that brings us to the end of today's exploration into elastic habits. Stephen Guise reminds us that change doesn't require strength, it requires strategy. Progress isn't about dramatic leaps, but about steady movement, no matter how small. If today's episode inspired you, consider sharing it with someone who feels stuck or overwhelmed by rigid routines. Sometimes, all a person needs is permission to begin small and begin again. Until our next episode, stay flexible, stay curious, and let your growth stretch naturally toward the person you're becoming.